What the heck is a quad lock?
Watch this to find out. Whether you're in the car, on the bike, on the water, in the air, your phone is an important tool. Keep it secure with Quad Lock.
We've got wandering eyes, Scott, is what you're saying.
We do.
We're looking
I'm
elsewhere.
cheating on it.
Supercars.
I feel bad. I mean, it's 570 points to Walkinshaw in third after 5 events.
I think Chaz will have a bounce back weekend. I think he'll win a race at some point.
Well, there we go. There's another one we disagree on.
We haven't seen a shit race yet this year.
No.
And if there's a track where you can make shit happen, to your point, if you can just bleed off getting someone's rear bar, buzz them up a bit out of the bot, like you can make shit happen at Perth.
100%.
He's in the fence! The boat's in the fence! They're all in the fence! Oh, unbelievable!
You can take it away, Barbs.
Sound check.
Sound check. Cheers. Hey. Cheers, mate. Oh,
It's a shaker.
it's a boy. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Welcome back, Scott. Thanks for joining me.
It's nice to be. I often feel like I'm your guest at the bar, but it is great to be back, Barbs. It's Sunday afternoon. There's lots happening in the world of motorsport. This is going to come out after the weekend is done. So right now, as we sit here, it's Sunday afternoon at the bar, but IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One is all happening again this weekend. Shane's had a good quali, so I'm excited to see how he does tomorrow morning. We will all know how he's done when we release this, but hopefully it's a good one for him.
Fingers crossed.
Oscar is on pole in Formula One as well, which is exciting. So hopefully he gets that done. And then Colton Herter has bounced back after some pretty strong words at the Indy 500, and he's on pole in Detroit for the IndyCar. So, I mean, IndyCar, the Detroit race, I honestly love watching all the onboards and stuff there, because you compare that to F1.
Yeah.
And those guys are working. Like, I know the cars are a bit slower, but
Track's great.
they are. It shows that F1 doesn't necessarily need to be as fast as it is if you can race closer and race harder and drive the cars.
Yeah, and just that little bit less error, because you see them work. Like, it's rare that you see an F1 driver correct, and if they do, they're generally going off in the fence or something. Like, but they're hustling.
They are, yeah, and you can kind of appreciate it because you can see the work they're putting in.
Yeah.
F1's so smooth and precise. It's impressive to watch them in person and stuff, but I think sometimes the onboard TV on TV doesn't quite do it justice for how hard they're working in the car.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I could watch on board of an IndyCar at a street track all day long and never get bored.
I'm also blown away with just how close the times are in IndyCar. It really, like, Colton Herter's lap was amazing, but beyond that, I mean, the bubble of the Fast Six to make it in was just like, I think Scotty Mack was 100th out and he was 8th.
Well, and when Will Power and Scotty Mack were both on the show here, they both said, like, it's so competitive. You do half a miss shift or half a light wrong, you're out of the Fast Six or out of the Fast 12, like, you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yep.
It's just, so it's obviously incredibly, which it is, competitive. But
and Newgarden made a mistake as well, tagged the wall in the first part of qualifying, so he didn't make it through to the Fast 12 to even advance for the chance of top 6. But yeah, it's exciting to watch. I think I'm genuinely getting a real interest in Formula One and, IndyCar and NASCAR particularly. I mean, the NASCAR race last week I really enjoyed. That was my favourite of the 3. And we've talked about it a few times. The break between the Supercar events is quite hard to not... You start looking elsewhere, don't you? You start to... You kind of cheat on the sport you love because you're looking for... You need that fix in between races. And to have 26 days, I think it is, between the 2 events, between Tasmania and Perth.
4 weeks or something.
Yeah, I've now sort of, it's given me an opportunity to let other sport in, and I'm genuinely enjoying. I got up this morning and watched the IndyCar quali, and F1. Of course, I'm always going to watch anyway. But yeah, it's and the reason I say it is that we're here to pre-brief the Supercars for round 5, and we're looking at it's round 15, 16 championship. Race they're up to, and I think that. I love that, they're calling them 15, 16, 17, 18, but really it's the 5th event of the season. And it's too far apart.
Well, it's funny. They're the premier category in Australia. They're at round 5, and I'm a support category. I'm at round 3. Like, it's almost the same.
I mean, it does bring it back.
They should be miles ahead of us,
For sure. And to be here previewing 14, 15 and 16, like race 14 to 16, I would love to be sitting here saying this is the 8th round of the championship or something like that. And because we could still be doing the same number of races. And it does bring me back to having 3 races on a weekend doesn't help the sport in the way that it should. We're now going to have, from Tasmania to Perth, we've had 3 weeks to go and enjoy other sport. So to say we've got
and we've done it. We've enjoyed it.
We have, and I guess I'm just saying, like, I appreciate it from a fan's perspective, because I'm in the same boat where I've thought about it, and in a team, you come back, you debrief, you talk about the event you're on, and then it's only 1 week before you really start preparing as a driver for that next race. So you don't have much time in between where you're not thinking about going racing. But as a fan from, say, 5 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, you don't think about it until the next event. You know, there is no time in between where you're working on a supercar program and thinking about the race. So
also makes life very hard for us to create content when there's not a lot of content.
It does,
to talk about.
and it's not, and it's not hating on it. It's just, we're trying to create content around it, and I also want to promote supercars. But I've struggled a little bit, probably, being completely honest, preparing for this podcast. I've struggled a little bit because there's.
Did you prepare for this? We've got wandering eyes, Scott, is what you're saying.
We do.
We're looking elsewhere.
Cheating on it. I feel bad. I'm like, we want to promote the sport, but I would love to be sitting here talking about the 8th event or something of supercars, and it wouldn't matter if it was still only race 14, 15, 16, whatever we're at now. But I think cutting back to the old 2-day format like we're talking about, even if, Adelaide 500, if it was like one big finale race, imagine the fanfare around having one big race on Sunday. But instead now we've got an extra 100-kilometre race. Like, we're talking about going racing more, but it's really not in the right way, I think, especially from a fan's point of view. I'm a little bit bummed. But on a positive note, I did get some feedback just on the vibe around having the new CEO around, who doesn't actually officially start in the role yet, but he is 100% hands-on already, which is exciting for everyone listening to this podcast. I think it's, James Warburton has arrived with a roadmap to success, I've been told, and has taken the team at Supercars through what his plan is and how he sees us going forward and getting the sport back to where it needs to be. I believe he's consolidating the offices back to one space to get everyone in the same location to really work as a team more. Yeah,
because for those who don't know, they do have an office in Queensland and also Sydney.
Yeah, so I think
it's split across a couple of states.
So from what I've heard, they're going to bring that all back into the one hub, which is great. I mean, during COVID, a lot of things got... a lot of things change, and even in the sport, whether it was through corporate hospitality or teams corporate and things, teams took things away to save money, and so did the category. And I think trying to get some of those things back will be a good move, and it does sound like that's something they're going to be looking at doing. And I thought that was exciting. It's good to hear as well that he is already hands-on with the sport. He's actually in before he's really meant to be in, or before his official role starts, because he is motivated to try and turn this thing around. And then the other thing is, sounds like he's acknowledged that he's not going to be around forever. So it's a great opportunity for him to train someone up from within the company to be prepared and ready to step up and take over the sport 5-10 years from now, whenever he decides to step back. And then we're not left in this situation again where we have to go outside and find a CEO. I think that's where, when we lost Tim Watford, that was an opportunity the sport had to promote from within, but we left it too long and he had to go find opportunities elsewhere. So from me personally, I think, he's a friend of ours, obviously, but I think if you're looking at what could take the sport forward, someone from the commercial department that understands every aspect of the business would be fantastic. And I do hope that they don't overlook Craig Dontis. I really think he's someone that's ran a team. He's competed himself. He's seen the sport from every angle, I believe. He's been part of negotiations, or at least involved in getting government funding and sponsorship to keep the sport alive. So I do think that he is someone who's young enough that could spend 10 years under the wings of someone like James Warburton. And be prepared to step up from within. Has a lot of respect, I think, from competitors as well, and sponsors. So yeah, I don't know. I think it sounds exciting, which is good. Because you did ask, you pressured, pushed me a bit.
And I spoke to Craig a couple of days ago, and he was pumped because he was actually at the Sydney office.
Right.
Craig doesn't live in Sydney, but he goes up and does what he needs to do there. And yeah, hopefully he doesn't mind me saying this, but he was, I could hear in his voice, he was excited by the new CEO coming in and been in the office, and he said the same thing you said. He said, well, he actually hasn't officially started, but he's got everyone up and about, and we're all like firing on all cylinders to make this happen. To keep it going up and put the changes in place. And yeah, so I think it is exciting, because if all the staff, like, that's true leadership, right? If someone can come in and all of a sudden everyone goes, fucking bang, I'm on.
Yeah.
Like, let's go and knock this out of the park. That's exciting, because that's what's going to drive the sport to better places.
It is. And, nothing against Shane Howard, but I think even, he's great within the company, but maybe not to lead the company. But he's definitely someone the sport needs to have around. So I'm excited, to see what happens next. And I think that we're seeing change. Even the media team reached out to us after one of our podcasts or clips that we shared and didn't particularly like what we had said, but then had a conversation with me, and it was about what we were talking about their website. And it was actually really good because he was like, oh, okay. So I sent him some references of what I think could be done differently. And he was like, oh, actually, yep, fair point. And went to the website team to make changes and get updates made to that. Because we are consumers at the moment. Like, we're really on the outside looking in as much as we are luckily on the inside of the sport as well. You know, so I think it's good that they are listening and starting to, you know, to get a DM from someone there that first off had somewhat taken offense to what we said and was on the defense.
Yeah.
But
which you're going to get.
But then was prepared to have the conversation and go,
yeah,
actually, fair point. It could be done better. And it's just looking at other sports too, like Formula One, NASCAR. AFL has one of the best apps I've seen. Like, just go copy that to start with and then try and improve it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
And as you said, that's where, like, just circle back for a second, where like guys like Craig are so valuable in an organisation, like, because they've been on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
So they understand from a competitor's point of view, as you touched on, and all the different stakeholders. And yeah, it's the same without every segment of the business.
Yeah.
You just need to go and look over the other side of the fence every now and again and jump back over. And
100%. And for those listening, we are live streaming this podcast. We haven't even officially sort of introed it, but we will get to that. We just wanted to start off with a few points that weren't necessarily event related, just some stuff that we chat about ourselves over lunch or a beer at a pub. But Traymon's made a good point. You know, it's not like we're the only ones saying it. So Traymon's popped in our chat here. We've got Patreon members with us. It's not like you guys are just saying what you guys only think. It's what other people in here have said as well. And that's kind of the point of why we live stream, why we run the fan memos, because
it's a pod for the people.
It is. And also, we're uneducated if we're not reading the comment section and having conversations. And that's why, like, even during the live stream, when we're talking about a topic, we are literally getting live feedback, and we might be wrong. And sometimes, unfortunately, you got to ask someone else for, hey, what is the right answer here? And often there's someone in the comments that actually has it. It's not like we have uneducated fans.
No,
this is
far smarter than us, Scott.
Yeah, and that's maybe you, Barbs.
Well, definitely.
My ego is big enough to lie about it anyway, about how smart I am. But it is, yeah. It's just, you know, it's as fans, we all like the sport. We just want to see it a little bit better, and then their opinions, you don't have to take them all. No. But conversation and starting to have conversation is how I think you find a solution to a problem.
And it's just bloody good conversation half the time, isn't it, Scott?
Well, it's a good excuse anyway to sit here and talk shit for an hour.
Talk about the sport we love and have a couple of frothies, get out of our house.
Exactly. We want to give a quick shout out to our partners that make this possible. Start with East Coast Car Rentals. If you're in the market for a rental car, AHU15 for 15% off already fantastically priced hire cars. Trico wiper blades. Barbs, if you're in the market for wiper blades, what are you going to buy?
Tricos.
Absolutely. And if you don't want to rent a car, you want to buy one, Lancaster Motor Group.
That's right. And if you go in and you mention Apex Hunters, you get a free wheel alignment. When's that till, Scotty?
End of June, I believe it is, this year. So if you get in and mention Apex Hunters, you don't mention our name specifically because
I won't know who you're talking about. But if you are one to hit the gutters, or your missus likes to hit the gutters in your car, mine is guilty of that too. Take it in, they'll give you a free wheel alignment, job done.
All the links to these websites will be in the description of this video. Quadlock, the link there if you're after any phone mounts, adapters, or a cover. You need a case for your phone. Action cam mounts as well. We smashed those that we used them flat out at the Adelaide Motorsport Festival. Any of the vision
they're
that was
awesome
captured there was
so quick to just change them.
Well, that was the thing that I didn't realise. Yeah, you don't need to undo your GoPro mount anymore. They've got their own connector, so that's very fast. But if you can, support the partners that keep us alive. If you'd love to watch our podcast live, like some of our Patreon members, go over there and sub. Back to the show. That is the longest little chit-chat for our intro, but episode 55. I say every time, I can't believe that we've had the support we have to keep going and keep doing what we're doing. We've got a couple guests lined up. One I haven't even told you about. One I'm very excited to announce. No, I announced it here. I haven't actually. I spoke to him yesterday, but Nick Percat is actually very engaged in our
good
socials.
The dog, I like it.
And I feel like, you know, Nick's the perfect guy who's at a point in his career who seems to be very authentic and outspoken and just says it how it is. So I actually asked him yesterday, would you consider coming on? And he said, of course, I'd love to. So
he's a bloody lightweight too on the piss, so that'll be hilarious. Feed him a couple of sherbets.
Yeah. And one of the cool things too, when I was in Taupo, Matty Stone actually said, "Great, I'd love to come on your pod too. Like I'm a team owner that's not against you guys. Like I think it's great what you're doing and would love to come on." So
Matty's awesome.
Excited to have those on. So there you go. Hadn't told you that, but we're here pre-briefing Perth, mate. It's round 5 of the Supercars.
Cheers.
Big weekend coming up. 3 races.
You're heading over too, champ.
I am. I head over Sunday. Sunday morning I fly out, come back Monday night.
Oh, so you're actually not going for the weekend. You're just going to fly over Sunday.
Yeah, I just wanted to get in for the ride day and then I can still watch it. But
That's good.
I'm co-driver life, mate. I fly in for the ride day. I can't believe how excited I am.
Glamour for you blokes, isn't it?
I can't believe how excited I am to go and drive at a ride day again. Like it is, I said it, I think last podcast, you get to a Sunday Arvo as the main guy and you're a bit knackered. So having to stick around a Monday, you just want to get home.
This excites me though.
As co-driver, I'm like, I can't wait.
It excites me that you're starting to find your love for motorsport again. And when I say that, like, you've been open about, mate, like it was tough towards the end of your full-time career. And, I say, oh, what'd you do? And you're like, oh, nah, why? And then now, like, you've driven the NASCAR, you've driven some things.
Yeah.
It excites me because, like, never having done it as a profession, I just love it. I'll drive anything. Like, I just love all forms of motorsport, shopping trolleys, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I'm
And then I'm seeing you, I'm starting to rub off on you finally. It's nice. It's only taken 15 years. But.
Yeah. No, I am. It took me a little while, but I think as a coe and not getting to drive as much as you'd like, they're good opportunities to go do some laps. And also spending Sunday with the team. So I'll get in early enough. I think I'll land at like 9:30, something like that. So I'll get in early enough to spend the Sunday with everyone, watch the Supercars, and then we'll debrief that when I come back after I've done the ride day.
Good. You'll have some good intel then, obviously being in the garage for that race on Sunday. So no doubt you'll have some good stuff for us when we do the debrief later that week. That'll be nice.
I'll steal someone's headphones and you'll get one hell of a biased debrief out of me.
You're going to pop on the ClearCom systems because Triple Eight also know what they're doing. They use ClearCom. So
they do.
That'll be good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into it, mate. What do we? You can kick it off here. I'll let you.
Well, we'll start with the which is a good thing that you've popped in here, mate, the teams points. Let's just touch on that because, we touched on after Tassie about them not talking about the bubble and all that sort of stuff, but the teams championship is obviously a big deal. And obviously with the live pit lane, it makes a bigger deal. It's huge. So we're just going to run off some of those stats for you there, guys. Red Bull obviously leading that, but they got a fair margin. So they got a 342-point lead over Monster Castrol Racing. So that's Tickford, Cam, and Thomas is the only two-car team now anyway. So, it's Tickford. And then you've got WAU a further 200 back from them. So WAU in third are on 1,183 points. Tickford are 1,413 points in second. And then you've got Red Bull at 1,755 points. So in 5 rounds, they're 340 top there on Tickford. It's like 85 points around. They've gapped them almost, or 90 points around. Like it's big in 5. So it's crazy. And then the other teams behind that, they're even further off. Obviously, they've got a fair bit of work to do. But and
you got. I would say, and I'm going to call this pretty early. I don't know if it's fair to call it yet, but I'm going to say that Triple Eight will win the teams championship next year in the Ford. And I don't know if they'll win the drivers championship. I think that someone I'd nearly pick a Chaz, in Toyota. I think often the first year that a new car comes out, it's pretty strong. But looking at the team's points, 342-point lead at this point in the championship is massive. And that's where I think even now we're seeing with Walkinshaw, and that's why I picked him next year to win the team's Triple Eight, is because Ryan Wood is doing an amazing job now. But then we've seen Chaz drop off. And to win the teams, this highlights you've got to have two drivers that are really close to each other. And you can't pick a favourite out of those two. At the moment, Brock is performing, he's out of his socks at the moment, isn't he? Like he's qualifying in race pace is great. But then his qualifying average is like third or something. It's like they are first and second every day of the week. And that's where the other teams I think are going to have to lift, because the 340 point, it's 570 points to Walkinshaw in third after 5 events. And I just don't see that gap changing that much next year.
No.
Because you need both guys to perform to be able to do that. And not even just have one fast car.
Yeah, and even talking about this year too, we're obviously heading in towards. It's just a consistency, which is why we've said Tickford aren't regularly fighting for drivers' championships because of the consistency over a season.
Yeah,
and we're obviously heading to the Enduros are coming up in a couple of months and things like that, and that just that consistency and that faultless performance day in day out is where they sort of get that game. But it's early in the piece to be so far up the road,
and it's harsh because it's not that the other teams aren't. On their day, they are as good as Triple Eight, or even better when they get it right and T8's not quite perfect. Like it's neck and neck. But to be able to turn up every weekend and I'm probably going to pick. We'll do who we predict this weekend is going to be strong, but I'd nearly, you're going to be Cam Waters and Walkinshaw. I actually think maybe Woody this weekend.
Right.
But you can't have these bad rounds. Like you can't have Chaz being out of the top 10 in Tasmania and then say turning up and being one of the favourites, I think, for this weekend in Perth, because that's not how the team's ever going to win a championship. And I don't see that changing when they go to Toyota.
Yeah, the window performance is definitely bigger in other teams. So, to your point, if Triple Eight have a shit day, Will Brown, as example, he might run 7th or 8th.
Yep.
But a bad day at WAU or Shell might be 15th.
Yeah, yep.
Or 20th.
And then you have those little mistakes like a pit stop drama or I don't know. I mean, I've started. It's funny that every sport is very similar in a way. And this weekend, CrossFit, there's some competitions happening. And when you see people looking down the lane, they try and find a little bit of time. They often make a mistake themselves, and you're better off focusing. And that's what I think happens in even car racing. It's like you say you're lacking a little bit on the track, you try and make it up in the pit stop. Or it's like qualifying. When you lock a wheel, you can't get it back at the next corner. You're already on the limit. So often it compounds and becomes worse. And you see it in every sport. I think that's where T8, it's like minimising the mistakes and on your bad day, just getting the best you can, not trying to recover from something from nothing to something. And that's where I wanted to ask, because Shell this year, we're 5 rounds in, or we're coming up on the 5th round, are you calling it success so far or not what you had hoped for? Because that's a team that got disqualified at the last event, had some mistakes across the race weekend. I mean, they qualified. Davo barely set a lap in qualifying. So what do you give them? Not a grade, I guess, but where do you see them right now? They are 5th in the team's championship.
Well, I was open. I thought by round 2 they'd be on. So I was hoping that by now we're round 5, coming up to round 5. We've had 4 rounds. I would have been hoping by now they've had a round or 2 of either beating Triple Eight or at least challenging and had a round or 2 of being really consistent throughout every session and being on the heels of them.
Yeah.
Which hasn't happened as of yet. So I would say it hasn't been and I was like, we've obviously got friends in there and stuff. I want them to go well. So I was being really positive and pumping them up, but it hasn't been to what I wanted, which might mean nothing to them, obviously, but I'm sure it's not to what they want either. With the investment, the people they got there, they got really good people.
And I don't think we were biased just because and that's the thing too, people might call me biased over Triple Eight. Our best mate from here in Melbourne is Tom Moore, obviously, like mutually best mate down here and he's in at Shell V Power Racing. So we want him to do well as well. It's not like, I'm biased because for 2 rounds a year I drive for Red Bull, and I'll openly say that, but also we had high hopes, and I thought that Shell this year would be stronger because it was like a calculated thing. I thought they've gone and got Brody, George, Tom, and a bunch of other people that aren't on the mainstream list that we see. And I did think by now it might have been clicking more consistently than it is.
And just touch on the bias thing, like we've got friends in every team up and down the lane.
Yes.
So you know what I mean? It's not, but with the ingredients in the package they put together,
I thought,
I thought, they're a real, and they may, again, no doubt now that I've mentioned it out loud, they'll prove me wrong at Perth. I'll probably go out and, you know what I mean? But
they might. And then the thing is, though, they've got to back it up at the following round at Darwin. That's what they've got to start doing.
So I think, if I was to give them a score, a grading, I would have rated it a C at the moment, where I was hoping for an A by this time of the year.
Yeah.
By 4 rounds in, I thought they would have had a few wins and stuff, and both cars consistently in that 6 to 8 in qual.
Yeah. An interesting way to put it, now I just thought about this, is if you were to say, without knowing the teams, but to say that Walkinshaw is going to be 572 points behind Red Bull by round 5, would you guess Shell is closer to Red Bull than 572 points? You would 100% say yes.
I would.
I would, at a blank guess, you'd say, yep, they're going to be splitting that difference, surely.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I would have thought, looking at the points gap, they probably should be in 3rd.
Yeah.
Looking at that points gap.
Yeah. I think Tickford was always like, they were going to be P2 in my guess. I would have thought if you could see the 572 point gap, you'd think someone else would be splitting that.
Yeah, Tickford I would have thought too, I would have had them at 2nd by now, but I would have had that gap half, if not more.
Yeah.
Because Thomas has been really fast, Cam's obviously really fast. I would have thought there wouldn't have been such a gap. it's also interesting for me that MSR are in 6th because, the optics of it is they've had quite a good season. They've had cars on the podium. Both cars have been on the podium a couple of times apiece. Cam Hill's had his win. Has Percat had a win this season? I can't remember now.
No, he finished runner-up though.
Second.
He's had second at the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and so then I look there. So, but again, obviously that consistency, they've had a couple of standouts, but then they've obviously had a couple of days where they've run 15th or whatever it be, and that's what kills you. I mean, and that's to your point, mate. 888, what's the worst? I don't know. We should have probably pre-planned this, but I don't know what the worst finish is for one of their cars so far for the year. It's probably not out of the 10 or just out of the 10, if that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but
I mean, Percat, that's the thing too. He's 13th in the championship, and Davo is actually 14th in the championship. So that's what's really costing. Brody's done well to be 7th in the championship because I feel like they've been up and down a lot, but he's had obviously some strong showings. And Randall is 6th.
And that's the thing. Like, there's signs of there that DJ are going to come good because Brody's had a couple of good standouts, and so has Will. Will had a podium in New Zealand, right?
Here we go. That's why we say about how educated the fans are. Flynn Johnson straight away 12th for Will Brown is the worst finish.
That's the worst. So there's been definitely signs there with quality speed from Brody's point of view and then some race pace stuff as well, but it's just not consistently there yet.
Has anyone surprised you in the team's championship so far? Positive or negative?
Probably to the negative. I would have thought Premier would have been higher up.
Yeah.
Because they've all got good drivers, but they've got 2 really strong drivers I would rate. And the same thing, heavily resourced team, good cars, all that sort of stuff. So I would have thought they would be higher, but also like Erebus 2 and 11th, I would have, just knowing on their car speed over the last few years, they've got fast cars. I would have had them higher up than where they are as well. I would have thought they would have still been floating around maybe where MSR is, even with a rookie driver and Jack there.
Yeah. Well, Cooper, and this is, you can't make up for this deficit. He's only scored 229 points across 4 events.
Yeah, he's had a shocker. So,
and Aaron Cameron, who hasn't done all the events, is already 157. So even he's closed the gap to Cooper. So 229 is obviously, that's the biggest. I mean, I was surprised in points too. James Corney's only scored 330 points. When you think there's 300 points up for grabs per weekend, to have done 4 events and be on less than 350 points. But that's obviously where Erebus is really struggling. But I mean, LeBrock's only scored 400 points.
Yeah.
So it has been a tough start for them. But I think Premier was the one for me that out of everyone, I did think I had higher expectations maybe of where they would be, which is a bit.
Yeah. And the second team at BGR, which is Jackson, Evans and Macaulay, they're only 70 points or something off Team 18, which is the new homologation team.
Yeah, I know.
So even Team 18 obviously haven't had the consistency there because they've got 2 fast guys, in Reynolds and Anton, and they're sitting 9th in the team's points. So I would have thought they would have been higher too.
Yeah, yep.
So that's sort of what I think.
Hunters, I just want to take a moment to thank one of our fantastic supporters, Shaw & Partners Financial Services. Shaw & Partners are a leading national investment advice and wealth management firm. They act for and on behalf of individuals, institutions, corporates, charities, and family offices. So, if you're looking for advice or assistance with investments or strategies, look no further than Shaw & Partners Financial Services. With a 35-year history and 8 offices strategically placed all over Australia, their financial advisors are within reach and ready to provide tailored solutions and advice. For more information, follow the link in the description of this podcast. Back to the show. It'll be interesting to see what Snowy River Caravans does next year with their sponsorship. Heard that, Team 18 is talking to them, and I'd be surprised.
JC will do another year, you reckon?
No, but as sponsorship, because that's the thing, I guess, with JC, bringing them into the sport, what happens there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the sponsorship thing, I'd love to see. It's been a little while since I think we've seen a new sponsor come into the sport. I mean, Snowy River is probably one of those, but I would like to see a sponsor stick where they are for a little bit longer and maybe bring in a new brand. I think with Team 18, they've got the promising at the moment, they've got the promise of being the HT team for next year. I think that you could take that to market and hopefully bring someone into the sport that is new rather than stealing from another team that is already it's not one of the big dogs. It's not like you're taking a sponsor off the rear quarter of a T8 car or something. You're taking a naming rights partner off of another competitor, and the only way really you're going to do it is probably by underselling or undercutting the market, which hurts everybody. So I hope that Snowy River stays where they are, and then hope that Team 18 can, with the new hype that's surrounding the homologation team and winning that, they could maybe bring someone new into the sport, because it would be great to see a new brand join and everyone, survive, everyone prosper.
I'll call this real early, 12 months up the road, but I reckon this time next year we'll look back at this, and if I'm going to say the next biggest mover and shaker while you're talking about Snowy is, I reckon BRT.
Yeah.
I reckon just because they've put a few things in place with the new chassis and they're investing heavily in the background, I reckon, which obviously it's not a high, like they're second last at the moment, or they're essentially last because the other one's just a wild card.
Yep.
But I think there will be leaps and bounds there. So hopefully Snowy hang in there.
I think you're right. I would predict Blanchard's to be 9th or higher in the teams this point next year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to make some big improvements over the next 12 months.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I think it is.
And I reckon I'll see JC on the podium once before the end of the year this year.
This year?
I'm just calling it.
I don't agree with that, but...
Hey, you don't have to.
That's okay. I'm allowed to say I don't agree as well. I actually think, before we move on from it, I don't think Matt Stone Racing is doing... I think that is a pleasant surprise. I think 6th is actually quite good. The fact that they're on the brink of jumping Shell, 969 points to 1,037. After this weekend, if they have a good weekend, and I do think that this weekend, Cam Hill would be my dark horse for Chev team. I think that he will be there. And if they could jump Shell, I reckon that deserves a big pat on the back for those guys, because...
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying where they are is not... But just, I would have thought, because they've seemed really consistent this year.
Yep.
Across both cars too. Apart from, I think Nick had that shocker in New Zealand.
Yep.
But other than that, they've sort of seemed like both cars have been within a bees of each other and actually running quite well.
Yeah, yep.
But yeah, you're right.
The other thing is as well, it's really, when you look at the top 10 championship for drivers, it is really a Ford Cup, except for first and second. So first and second is obviously Brock Feeney, Will Brown. They're quite close in points, 861 for Will and 894 for Brock. But then forwards from 3rd to 7th, Matty Payne is in P3, which is, I think that's an unreal job. I think Matty's doing a great job this year. He's stepped up massively. And then Cam Waters 4th, Chaz Mostert 5th, Randall 6th, and Kostecki in 7th, before we see another Chev.
Yep.
So then it's
Harity's wrong.
Cameron Hill, Andre Heimgartner. I think it's just a big surprise. Don't you reckon? Like, because
just winding you up. I think that's actually, it's a good thing, because to me, like, you look at it.
But when you look at the race weekends and even the comments online, you would think
that it's all
a
Chev.
Ford Cup. It's a Chev Cup. You'd think it's always the Chevs. And to see that consistently, it's only, that's why I think now you'd say, well, T8 would almost be, you'd be silly to say they're not going to win the championship next year, because clearly if you're in a Ford this year, consistency-wise, you're much better off for consistency, unless you're in a Triple Eight Chev.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Just looking at the team's Drivers' Championship.
So the second best Chev team, well,
is really
MSR is
MSR.
Cam Hill in 8th.
I think Andre's doing a great job too, actually, with BJR. So that's worth a
Andre
honourable mention in 9th.
Quite often punches above his weight, I think.
Yeah.
Always grabs a win throughout a year or a podium here or there. And they're not one of the powerhouse teams.
Is it worth mentioning the bubble barbs? Should we mention who's on the cusp of the top 10 of the championship right now? We are coming up to, we're halfway in the sprint championship.
I think it's,
I think it's
we've banged on about it, so we probably have to mention going champ.
Yeah, it was a loaded question, Barbs.
So 10th currently is Ryan Wood on 539 points, but James Golding in 11th is 524, so there's bugger all between those two. Anton De Pasquale, 493 in 12th, and then you've got Nick Percat 13th in 471. So, you would say at Perth, probably maybe Golding could jump Woody there. Maybe Anton. It really depends, but sort of Woody's just hanging in there. If Golding, and I think going into Perth, I actually think WA are probably going to be strong.
I agree.
So I actually think Ryan might actually jump up potentially there, because from 539 to Andre at 552, there's not a lot between them there.
No, and the thing is too, on the positive side of the bubble, P7 with Brody's only on 590 points. So there's only 100 points between 7th and 12th.
Yeah, so
it's still very close, but the drivers that are really in the shot of the bubble at the moment is Percat in 13th, Pasquale 12th, Golding 11th, Woody in P10, Andre Humdinger in 9th, Cameron Hill in 8th, and Brody Kostecki in 7th. So there's a lot of drivers there that are really, it takes one or two good or bad weekends and we'll see that switch.
You'd really say the last one currently for the next couple of rounds that I think could maybe sneak in the 10 if they have a really strong, like start to get their shit together is Will Davo.
He needs to.
So 440, he's on 441 points in 14th. So
he is, you're right. He's
probably the last in my mind that at the moment is probably going to get in there.
At 150 points to 7th from Will, he really needs to have a few good rounds.
Yep.
And it does only take, if they have a few good rounds, he can get in there. But like you're right, that's starting to get to the point where, and if Davo doesn't make the top 10, I think that's a big surprise. I think for everything that happened this year, we thought they were going to be.
Yeah. It's so hard to tell, isn't it? But a couple of good rounds, couple of good podiums, the odd win with the couple of cars that are in front of him, he could easily jump back in there.
Yeah. Yep.
They're just like everything. It's going to need to find that car speed.
Exactly. Now the event itself. So we are in Perth. It's a big trip over there for everyone. But 2 practice sessions on Friday. As always, there's always I don't know why we do Friday practice, but we do still. So 2 30-minute practice sessions. And Saturday is the 2-part knockout qualifying sessions for race 14 and 15.
Worth mentioning too, 30 minutes might not sound like a lot, but at a sub-minute lap, it's a lot of laps. It's like they could potentially do 60-odd laps. Like it's actually quite a bit of running.
At Perth, I'm saying like...
Oh,
across both sessions.
I'm saying 30 minutes might not sound like a lot, but it's actually quite a lot of just pounding around at a place that it's like Tassie. It's, 52 seconds, something like that, the lap? 51 seconds?
I've actually, got...
So it's very similar to Tassie in the fact it's...
54.5
there you go.
Was pole for race 1.
There you go. So it's under a minute. So it's actually, it's a lot of running.
It is. And we do see a lot of people at Perth often do a race run. Now, in 2019, the track was resurfaced. Yeah. So the deg is not as bad as it used to be. The deg, to be honest, is actually similar to Darwin, which is about 0.03 per lap, which is 2/5 of fuck all.
A third of a tenth.
It's not a lot. So I think with 2 30-minute practice sessions, we'll probably see some run a race run in one of the practice sessions and then focus on quali. First session of the weekend being probably your race run, then second one being your qualifying, and then the 2-part knockout for qualifying on Saturday. And then it's 250 lappers, mate. So the first one, 1 p.m., the second one, 4:10 p.m. I don't even know what the difference is between Perth and here. A couple of hours, isn't it? A couple of hours.
Yeah, it's 2 at the moment. 2 at the moment without daylight savings, I think.
Yeah. So 4:10 their time, I believe, is a race. But 50 lappers for both. And then Sunday is the 2-part qualifying with a top 10 shootout. So it's the format 3, I think they call it for Sunday. So top 10 shootout, which is interesting. I don't know the last time we saw a shootout at...
Well, I can't remember one at Perth. Not lately anyway.
Yeah, and an 83 lapper. So she's a long one on Sunday, which is great. I think the long races there actually work quite well.
Just touching on Saturday, sorry, before we jump,
bro.
I actually really enjoyed when Perth, you remember the years we did the night race for you guys? For Supercars?
Yes.
I actually really enjoyed the night events at Perth.
Yeah.
And I felt like the crowds were always great. Normally quite good in Perth anyway, but the night event, I ran it a couple of times for that, and I just thought it was always a really good crowd, good atmosphere, good vibe.
The atmosphere on the grid for the night race was... It was actually almost a little bit overwhelming. I remember the first year we did it and I got out of the car and I ended up actually getting back in because it was that many people, and it's a small grid too. It's a narrow little... And
the way Perth is too, it's a bit like an amphitheatre there, isn't it? Like with the hills around it. So the fans can actually get up on there and actually you can see quite a lot. It's just a really great vibe. I actually really enjoyed Barbagallo or Wanneroo.
It's a great track.
So, but I just always thought those night races were really cool, watching the supercars finish up there under lights with the fireworks and all the stuff, and I just thought it was awesome. So it's a shame that they haven't done that this year.
Yeah, fair. The weather is something that's, at the moment we're looking at Monday through Thursday, really high chance of rain. But it's obviously a little bit far out to see the weekend, but there is a chance of rain around, which will make it interesting. I raced Super 2 there in the wet. I reckon was probably the only time I raced in the wet.
We raced together there in the wet.
We did. So that might be the only time.
Actually, I think it was practice. I think the race was wet, but the practice was definitely wet.
Nah, I poled it in the wet in qualifying.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
And then the first race I won was in the wet and drying track there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting now because 2019 when they resurfaced it used to always have some of the best finishes. You'd see someone like a Lounsey or even Bridie one year there had a crazy strategy where he came through on fresh tyres, and we just don't really see that anymore.
And you used to have to really think about it, especially in the Super. Like, think back to our Super 2 week, and they're like, you couldn't just fry the thing up out of the bowl.
Yeah.
Back then, because you'd tear the tyres off the thing. And same thing going up the hill. Like, it was a real, the flip-flop through the hill, it was a real finesse to, like, not tear them up through there.
And even that left-hander turn 4, you'd get right up on the apron on the left-hand side because it had better grip there, turn from the outside there. And even the bowl, like, that was one where the wheel spin lights on the dash
you have them,
were so critical. I did. Oh, only main series. And you would, you couldn't, I don't think they were allowed in Super 2, were they? Anyway, you'd run the wheel spin lights and you'd have those flickering and you're like, fuck, I'm barely touching the throttle and the thing's just flashing, to show you the wheel spin. So time management used to be a real key around there. But that is something that's gone a little bit. It does get worse every year because of the sand blowing across the track.
Yeah.
But that made Perth, we love hearing commentators talk about tyre deck. But that was definitely a place where it was actually pretty critical. And
it wasn't so much like, the deck was one thing, but I think also from a driving point of view, like it was like driving in the rain in the dry. Like you'd get halfway through a race and you'd be like, your inputs would be the same as if it was pissing down rain.
Yep.
And like just to try and not slip the tyre, but be on that edge. And I think, I don't know what it's like for the boys now in main game without that deg. I haven't run there since they've done the new surface. But that used to be a real, really fun part of the character of the track.
Yeah.
And that's where you could get passes done too, because someone would get greedy on the throttle, they'd buzz it up and you'd get a run on them.
Yeah, get the nose down the inside. And
where without that, I don't think, I don't know if the racing will be as exciting as what it used to produce.
Well, I think that's what was so hard that year that Brodie and Shane had that battle. Like for Shane to get by, really had to unsettle.
Get on the rear bar and
unsettle Brodie. And I think that in the past, it would have been a much easier overtake.
Yeah.
So the racing, to see someone come from the rear of the field now with a late stop or something for fresh tyres, I don't know that we're going to see that. Now, strategy, you can take that away, Barbs. We've got a rough idea on what the pit stops will be. It's 2 tyres or 4 stops.
Yeah, so you can do 2 or 4. The difference between a 2 or 4, keeping in mind, guys, there's no deg. So really the only difference is you got about 3 seconds for a 2-stopper, or you can run the risk and go maybe 7.5 seconds with the 4. But if you're not going to yield the extra speed out of it like they used to, in my mind, is it worth doing? We'll find out on the weekend who does and who doesn't.
Yep.
I would say it's probably not worth the risk because you've got an extra 2 wheel nuts that can cross thread or something to go wrong in the stop. Yeah. And if you drop a second, remember it's only a 55-second lap. If you drop a second there, it's a huge percentage.
Yeah. So and especially now, not now, but there's only really one left-hander.
Yeah.
So if you take left-hand side tyres, you're looking pretty good without the deg because if you can maintain your drive, you're not really under threat out of the bowl. And passing out of turn 1 is unlikely. So fresh left-hand side, I don't know that it's going to be worth the risk of the 4 tyre.
Yeah, Me just sitting the bar having a beer, not knowing much about it, I would say it's probably not, but we will see. And that's, again, the shame without having the track deg now is it takes a little bit of the strategy away where people can run the gauntlet, like what you said with Lounsey when he come back and, puts fresh tyres. Everyone's probably going to work out what the optimum strategy is and just run with that, and everyone's probably going to do the same.
Yeah. Queensland Raceway was one of those tracks too. Always had good finishes in the end with high deg and you could overtake. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case this weekend, maybe. I think what we will see, though, is that the odd leader or car with a buffer to the car behind take 4 tyres. I think that there will still be people take 4.
Yeah.
But
so you've got, for the first race, you got soft, then you got super soft, then you got soft again for the 83 lapper too. So that's a difference in tyres.
Okay.
But other than that, we'll see what happens.
The 2025 tyre as well, that's the thing too. You're not going to you could take 2 and there's less deg on that tyre. So I would say it'd be unlikely to see.
Yeah, and because we saw at Taz too, there was bugger all deg.
There was no deg.
Those that ran so. A little bit of a shame. Eventually they've got to repave circuits and refresh them. And I get it, but it is a shame when it takes away that characteristic that was so famous at Perth.
Now, who was competitive last year? What do we? It looked fairly.
So
it wasn't just a Ford or Chev.
No,
straight out. I think it was a bit of a mix-up. Like if you look at the race 1 results, it was Ford, Chev, Ford, Chev, Ford, Chev, Ford. So that really highlights that there was no super strong car, which is good to see.
WAU was strong there because that's where we saw for the qualifying for the race 1 last year, Chaz Mossett was pole, but Woody was right on his heels in second. So a bit of a breakout round for Ryan Wood.
This was the round, wasn't it, where we all went,
oh, yeah, he does have some speed.
Jesus, he's arrived. And with what we've seen this year.
Yeah. Again, historically, Triple Eight were always really strong there back when there was heaps of tyre deg, but obviously that's changed, as we just mentioned. Yep. So they were still strong last year with Will and Brock were 4th and 5th. Cameron Hill again last year was 6th. So I think you mentioned earlier, mate, you're thinking he might be a bit of a smoky there.
I think so, because I think they're stronger this year.
Yeah.
I actually think that's a team that's improved year on year, and Cam Hill himself as well seems stronger. But yeah, I mean, Chaz last year really was. He was lights out fast, wasn't he? And I know Cam bounced back on Sunday. So I guess to go through it, I mean, qualifying for race 1, Chaz was on pole ahead of Woody. They were 1-2, like you said. And then the race, Chaz was able to get it done. Woody, I think he lost the podium late. He nearly got P3 and Waters got him at the end of the day. But I think Will, this was another round that I really thought Will outperformed the car.
Well, he lost the podium I'm just looking at this here, Scotty, by 3/10. He crossed the line after Cam Waters, so it was obviously tight.
Yeah, and Will does this sometimes. This is one of the most impressive things about him, I think, is dragging something, not from nothing. It's not like they're not competitive, but I think even Sydney Motorsport Park this year, to come away from that event second in the points was unreal, considering I think Brock was a little bit quicker at points, but he did do a good job. But, I mean, Chaz was in a league of his own, I think, on Saturday. He qualified on pole and then got the race win. Sunday, Cam really bounced back, though.
Another thing I'm just looking at here, mate, sorry, this is on the race 1 results, but James Courtney was 6th. Now...
Oh, can he be a smoky this weekend?
Well, BRT do have a technical alliance with WAU.
Oh,
so if WAU come out with strong setups again, then...
They might be on.
I'm just saying, we could see something special.
Just throwing it out there.
I did say he'd be on the podium at some point.
Yeah.
He had a podium there with Tickford too in Perth, I believe, the year prior.
That was one of those weird strategy ones.
I'm just saying. I didn't say how he's going to get it.
You didn't say everyone else could break down. Doesn't matter how you get it. But yeah, you're right. They were very strong.
And it's just something to think, because there are teams that do technical alliances throughout the grid.
Yeah.
And so, they were strong last year, WAU. Will their customer teams then, will that help them as well? Yep. We'll find out.
I'll hold 5 for my predictions. I wanted to make a left of field one there, but we'll just run through
Throw it at me.
We'll just finish these results from last year, because I think that's important. Randall last year was pretty strong as well, so I think this is going to be a good one for Tickford. But I do want to...
That was him and Brown's duel, wasn't it?
It was, and that's the one. So we had only started... So this event was a little bit earlier in the year last year, and we actually started the podcast just after that event. So the podcast hadn't... Apex Hunters United podcast didn't exist at this point when the event was on, and you couldn't make it to Sydney for the podcast with Peter Adderton and Will Brown, and Will Brown actually called it a tactical foul on Randall. So I think, that battle between those two guys last year went down to the wire.
It was good too.
It was really good. So I think we'll definitely see more of that again. And that could be as well where maybe if someone does put a 4-tyre on, they've got to be aggressive to get past someone on a 2-tyre stop. And that's where that last corner is a good overtaking spot. We'll see it happen.
Where the 4-tyre, just thinking on that now, where the 4-tyre can work is, as you said, turn 4 up the hill. If you can rail a bit and get the run down in the bowl, because the bowl...
get the switch back.
There's a couple of... you can skin the cat a couple of ways there.
Yep.
So you can actually sneak your nose up. If someone's doing the sort of out then back in, you can kind of just roll off and get your nose in and try and make something happen.
Exactly. And Flynn Johnson's throwing the chat too that Cam actually got Woody on the last corner of the last lap. And that was one where I don't know that you'd get that this year on Woody. And I'm not saying it was a mistake by Woody last year. I think as a rookie, he did a great job. He held him off for a substantial amount of time, but...
Well, he's another season race hardened, isn't he?
He is. And also, he's had his first podium now. So finishing third already for Woody is not going to be enough. So he's going to risk a little bit more to hold someone off.
Yep.
But I reckon what I want to throw out there is I think Chaz is going to have a tough weekend.
Bit of a Ford Cup, just looking at some of the race results in some of them, like across the field, like that top 10 in race... Oh, that's qualifying race 2, sorry. Yep, go on. No, even in the race 2 results there looks to be more blue in the 10 than Chev.
Yeah.
But sorry, mate, you think...
I thought it was pretty even.
I've got one.
But you're right. Like, I guess in the races, you've got Chevs 11 through to 18. No, 11 through to 20.
Yeah, I got
Chevs.
7 Fords in the 10 for race 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think that Chaz, we talk about like Reynolds operating off confidence as well as one of those drivers, but I do think that Chaz is another one, and I think Woody at the moment is on form, and it was uncharacteristic to see him so far away from Woody at Tasmania. And I feel like this is going to be an event. I reckon we'll see Wood get his first win this weekend will be my pick. And I think Chaz, I think Wood's going to have a big gap on him this weekend. Could be nowhere.
This is why we are so different, mate, because I was driving here today going, I reckon Chaz is going to have a bounce back. Which is good because shows we think completely different. Yeah, so that's interesting.
And the next one is I think that Will be the lead Triple Eight driver this weekend.
Okay.
I say it because Brock has been really strong this year, but one thing Will did at Tasmania was during that break when they had 20 minutes with the red flag, or the timing was down.
Yeah.
He's very good at analysing what Brock's doing. I think this is where having a competitive teammate is the most important thing as a driver. You got to be up against the best because you always lift. And I think Shane said that about Scotty Mack when they were competing against each other. They got each other to a level that they wouldn't have if the other didn't exist. And I just feel like there's no way. Like Will is one of the most competitive people I've ever. Well, I'm paired with him now as a Coe, but I've ever sort of seen operate. He's so competitive that I think since Tassie to Perth, he will have done so much homework that I just feel like at an event he was strong at last year, he's going to come back even better. And I do think that Woody's going to be, I think Woody will be the quickest is my guess.
Right.
But I think that Will be ahead of Brock. So that's, yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. But I do think that Woody's going to be the man this weekend. I think it's exciting. If I was him, I'd be feeling pretty pumped heading into an event where I was strong last year and I've just got better and better.
Okay.
Who's your, what do you think? What are your predictions ahead of the weekend?
I think WAU will be strong. I think, I think Chaz will have a bounce back weekend. I think he'll win a race at some point across the three, and I think he'll be thereabouts for all of the race and the whole weekend. But in saying that, I think if Chaz is there, I think Ryan's also going to be there. I don't think there's going to be a big gap between those guys. Yeah, obviously Brock and Will are going to be strong. Who will get the upper hand there? I don't know. I'll go opposite. I'll say I think Brock will keep that momentum rolling. I've got no reason to why that is. Just like, but as you said, confidence flows sometimes. Not that I don't think Will's lacking any confidence. And as you said,
it's just fun. There's going to be a lot at the end of this weekend that we're going to come back and go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Chaz beat Woody.
Yeah,
I'm on Woody's bandwagon. You're on Chaz.
And
I've gone from. I mean, Brock was. Yeah, I've switched. I'm Will. You're Brock.
Yep. I will say. I actually think Thomas is going to up Cam for whatever reason. I don't know why. I just think I think there'll be a fire in the belly there. I don't know.
Well, there we go. There's another one we disagree on. I think it's a track that to get the result, you got to be so aggressive. Like there's an opportunity always at Barbagallo. We saw it last year with Cam on the podium. He just wanted it a little bit more and he was aggressive and he got the move done. We saw it on Randall and Brown. And I'm not sure when it comes down to like a last lap battle, I reckon there'll be some other drivers that would risk it and risk a crash for the result, and I reckon that's where I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully Randall is prepared to risk it, but I still feel like Randall would take a third or a second.
He's got to be at that.
He'd take points.
Got to be at that point the other day.
Well, you have to be, but I reckon he'll.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying.
So we're opposite on every single one so far.
We're out of sync today, Scope. That's okay. So that's what I reckon.
Do you know what I'd love to see get a result this weekend is actually Richie Stanaway.
I would love Richie. I'd love also Golding.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see Jimmy get a result and Richie. I'd love to see BRT have a decent weekend where they run both cars or a car consistently in the 10 across all three races. I'd love nothing more. So if WAU were strong, I feel like Courtney will be pretty strong if they're getting what they're like. If it's actually like a genuine technical thing and they're getting all the info that they need to have the cars the same, then I feel like James can do a similar job still. It'll be interesting, mate. But yeah, it's still a little bit of a shame that Deg's gone and stuff, and it's not the night race and that sort of thing. But I think it'll be hopefully, I reckon it'll still be belter racing. We haven't seen a shit race yet this year.
No.
Have we?
No,
And we've had wildly different. And if there's a track where you can make shit happen, to your point, if you can just bleed off getting someone's rear bar, buzz them up a bit out of the bot, like you can make shit happen at Perth.
100%.
So I reckon there'll be some elbows up. I reckon there'll be a couple of nose cones getting fixed after each race.
Broken Spoke 9 has said there's only three steps on the podium, lads. That's a very good point. 3 races. We got to keep it to 3.
But there's 3 races, so we can pick 9 people.
Well, that is true.
Come on.
You got, and you can put this in the comment section. You got 1 race, 3 podium spots.
Yeah.
Who's your 3? Yeah. I'm going to take a P15S and you can give me your answer when I come back.
Yeah, copy.
Prezzo's thrown in there. P1 Check. For Randall, Wood and Brown. That's not a bad guess.
Is this just for a race?
Just you can only pick, because otherwise, yeah, you're right. There's 9 podium places. Just 1 podium.
Yep.
Who is it in Perth? Take your time. It's not like anyone's waiting.
I got Chaz P1. I got Randall 3rd.
What are you looking at?
I'm just thinking. It's my thinking space. I've got...
You've gone 1st and 3rd again. We always split the difference.
And then I've got Brock 2nd. So I've got Chaz 1st, Brock 2nd, Randall 3rd.
I've got Woody 1st.
Yep.
2nd, Will.
Yep.
Brown.
Yep.
3rd, Cam Waters.
Okay, we're kind of similar, just different opposites.
Yeah.
We're the same teams, actually, just opposites.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough, though, because there are a lot of cars. I think this weekend, you might be right, Chaz might bounce back, but it's going to be one of those events, I think, this year, this weekend that does...
I'm usually wrong. So.
Yeah. If I was Chaz right now, I'd be like, fuck, why'd you have to pick me?
DJ will be laughing. They're like, we're going to clean sweep this weekend because they haven't picked us.
It is one, though, that you're right. I mean, it did look like Fords. I thought it was probably more evenly split, but the finishes do look like they favoured Ford a little bit. So maybe we'll see Shell bounce back. Let's hope that we do. It would be good to see. I mean, Davo's got to start kicking some goals fast just because of the bubble. Like with that top 10 now, you don't want to do too many more rounds because, you miss out on that top 10, your championship's over.
Actually, Prezzo's just put something, which is a good question in our comment section here on Patreon. Who do we reckon gets their first win first, either Golding, Randall or Wood? It's a great question.
Wood.
Yeah, I know you're saying Wood.
Wood.
I'm just going back to my thinking space.
Wood. Up there again in the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say... I'm going to say Randall.
Randall. Okay.
Yeah. I can't copy you.
You could, if that's what you believe. But obviously, okay, so you don't believe Randall, you're just saying it because you don't want to copy me. That's fair enough.
I'm just saying I don't want to copy you.
Prezzo, Scotty loves Wood. I just think if I don't know that Premier's got it quite for Golding yet, mate.
No, I agree, and that's the only thing that stops me. That's the only thing that stops me from saying Jimmy is I just don't think Premier are there yet.
Yep.
So the only other 2 that are is I think Tickford and WRU. Yep. I just think, for whatever reason, I'm going Tommy.
Well, there you go. It is going to be an interesting weekend. There's our pre-brief for round 5,
Perth
Supercars. If you can. If you want to be part of the conversation next time as well, Patreon, sub to that, or just subscribe to our YouTube. Hit the like button on this video if you did enjoy it, or on Spotify, everywhere you find your podcasts. Cheers, guys.
Copy that. Cheers.